Hey there, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. My name is Pete, and today we complete another episode of this Honor Mode walkthrough with our Dark Urge Halfling Bard, Sylvia Hairyfoot. Last time we left off after tackling the owlbear nest, defeating not one but two fully grown owlbears, but sparing their cub. We also learned more about Shadowheart, who revealed herself to be a follower of the dark goddess Shar. We ran into a dog protecting the dead body of its master, who eventually joined us in camp. And finally, after unlocking the bedrolls and breakfast achievement for our fourth long rest, we encountered Skeleritus Fell, who claimed to be Sylvia's butler. So, plenty of events to process and more to come. Let's get to it. You can see that Gale has joined the party and that I have already recast Longstrider and Speak with Animals. The latter we can now use to approach Scratch.
Hope you're keeping well, friend.
We only get one line of dialogue, so let's use it and show ourselves sympathetic to Scratch's loss.
Master. Friend. I stayed with him until I knew he was gone. I'll never forget him. But I'm glad to have met you.
This conversation here, by the way, the same we would have had if we had the spell active right away last time, so nothing was missed, and we can leave again, both the conversation and our campsite.
Do you have loves waiting for you once this is all over?
You know what? That is not the easiest of questions for me to answer.
You mean just waiting? Like a lovesick puppy? Short-term amusements are much less hassle.
After some banter from Astarion and Shadowheart, we can see that our cleric wishes to speak to us. Let's hear what she has to say.
There's something I want to talk to you about. Something important.
Well, we're talking already. Might as well hear her out. Not to mention that this also earns us some more approval.
I can never take for granted how someone might react when they learn I worship Lady Shar. Easier to just keep it a secret than take the risk. But you showed you had an open mind. I'm trying to say that you've earned my trust in a way very few ever have. I want that to mean something. I want you to know more about me, at least from what I can remember. As long as I've prayed to Lady Shar, I've wished to serve her as a Dark Justiciar. There is scarcely a greater way to fully dedicate yourself to Lady Shar, save perhaps if you become the head of her church. To become a Dark Justiciar is to become the Night Singer's sword arm, her implement with which she will cast down the unbelievers and win the final battle to restore her perfect, endless darkness. It's all I ever wanted. I prayed it was my calling. But Mother forbid me from seeking to prove myself worthy of the rank. She said I was not ready. Not my mother, I should add. The Mother Superior, head of Lady Shar's enclave in Baldur's Gate. Sometimes I wonder if she would ever deem me ready. I owe her everything, and I only wish to serve, yet she can prove inscrutable.
Alright, another secret revealed. Shadowheart dreams of becoming a Dark Justiciar, and we want to use the first two dialogue options here first for a little more insight. Is there truly no hope the Mother Superior will change her mind?
I don't know. Perhaps if I succeed in my mission and reach Baldur's Gate. Hope has little place amongst Lady Shar's children. It's an illusion, a distraction. But for this, I hope my time will yet come.
Another question then, although this one is easily answered, I think. After all, being a follower of Shar already tends to be frowned upon. Becoming a Dark Justiciar, therefore, is probably not a wish you share openly.
Dark Justiciars are hated by many, judged to be ruthless fanatics. Even the few who would accept a follower of Lady Shar would likely balk at a Justiciar in their midst. But there's a simpler answer to your question. I simply forgot about the desire I had until I saw some things that reminded me. Now, I can't get it out of my mind.
Right, so lately learning more about Shadowheart in each episode, let's gain a little more approval by thanking her for sharing another secret with us.
Thank you. I had a feeling you'd be understanding.
Right, onto the action then. Before I forget, Gale is currently wielding Corellan's Grace for a bonus to all of his saving throws, while I've given Astarion the Ring of Color Spray, allowing him to blind someone, potentially useful to pull off sneak attacks. And with that, we can now get going.
I am enjoying our walks together. Aren't you, Gale?
Sure. In silence.
If you're wondering, we're going back down towards the owlbear nest. There is one area down there that we have not yet explored, but it is very, very small, passing through the bridge pillars here.
You seem to know a good deal about our condition, Gale.
Everything, really. Not to put too fine a point on it.
A humble specimen, aren't you?
On occasion.
In this area here, we can harvest some belladonna, pick up a scrapwood shield, and loot a bird's nest between the rocks, and there's also a ruptured mind flayer pod to investigate.
An empty mind flayer vessel. If its occupant survived, then nowhere to be seen.
Right, that's all. Back up to the bridge we go.
Do you have someone waiting for you in Baldur's Gate, Astarion? A sweetheart, perhaps?
Not one in particular. The city is a veritable feast of sweethearts.
You must be eager to get back, then. Slimmer pickings out in this wilderness.
So here we are, at the end of the bridge, a gate leads into the area beyond. Before passing through though, we can harvest a few more alchemy ingredients to the right of it, and another bird's nest is hidden over here too. Then, a dead tiefling right in front of the gateway catches our attention.
Movement on the roofs. I sense a classic ambush in the making.
Right, passing this perception check is crucial. Before we walk into the suspected ambush though, let's learn of the village's name.
Moonhaven.
And Moonhaven is what we are about to enter. Not much life in there from what we can see, but that's about to change.
Get over there! Surround them like!
Right, looks like we have reached the goblins, and we will tell them that we already know of their presence. This is vital to gain advantage on a skill check later.
You spotted us! Good! It's like they say, no fun in skewing a pig what doesn't know he's cooked.
Now, we could definitely force a fight here, but they have numbers and the high ground, so let's not provoke trouble. We will simply stand our ground and firmly state that there will be no skewering happening today.
We got you surrounded. Here's how this goes. You take one step further, and we'll fill your front with arrows. Or you turn around, and your backside gets the same treatment.
As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
Alright, a familiar sight, and we could once again use our illithid tadpole to command the goblins to stand down, and if you don't pass the perception check, that is what I would recommend. However, we did pass that check, and thus now have advantage on a DC 15 persuasion check. Seems a little bit more risky, but the success chance here is actually over 95%, and it saves the illithid powers too, which can only be used once per long rest.
Suppose it's best to save our strength for a real threat. Go on then. Just keep your nose clean.
And there we go, we can now pass freely through the village, earn 100 experience points, and Astarion receives an inspiration as well. Now, before we enter the village, there is something to take note of. Gale does not appear to be in good shape, and I think we can all guess why.
You'll have to speak slowly. I'm finding it quite difficult to concentrate with my condition gnawing at my insides like a teething displacer kitten.
Seems like the time has finally come for us to part ways with a magic item if we want Gale to stick around. Let's make the offer and see what we have available.
That is most gratifying to hear. May I?
Before handing over one of our possessions, though, let's ask what the effects will be. Perhaps we need to maintain a safe distance.
I will consume the magic inside. What was a powerful artifact will be rendered no more than a trinket. But it will save my life, even if only temporarily.
Right, time to choose, and at least for this first item, it is an easy choice. We have in our, weirdly enough, actually in Gale's possession, Chimera's Locket with the Dancing Lights cantrip. Not something I picture as needing anytime soon, so we might as well part ways with it.
Thank you. That hit the spot. I can feel it work. The magic, it's like a lullaby that sings to sleep the demon inside. A metaphorical demon, I haste to point out, but no less dangerous. And no less bound to wake up again to continue its ravages. Such is the nature of all monsters.
There is no further approval to be gained from this, giving Gale the item already boosted by 10 points. Perhaps enough for Gale to trust us a little bit more to finally spill the beans on his condition.
Grateful as I am, the course of our camaraderie is much better served by not taking that particular detour. Not just yet. Sincerely, though. I understand I ask a lot from you with few answers in return. But in time, all will be told.
Right, no real answers for now, so we might as well show ourselves as the gracious provider that we are, and wait for the next time Gale needs his fix.
My lady, I bow to your boundless kindness.
Now then, into what the game officially calls the Blighted Village. We begin with the building on the left here, overgrown and somewhat disheveled, 2 goblins on the roof, but we are more interested in the beehive that can only be accessed from up here. Back down, we unlock the local waypoint, find some rotten food on the doorstep and enter. You can be pretty thorough here, but the real items of value are few and far between. The wardrobe has some shabby clothing, there's a book on the floor, and the barrel by the bed has healing potions in it. You can also wander outside from here. This is a good spot to ambush patrolling goblins if you so desire, but the chests and the cupboard in this area are empty. Back inside, the household prayer can be found on the floor in front of the desk, but the more interesting stuff is found in the room adjacent, clearly once the local apothecary. As such, antidote and mugwort are found by the fireplace, while just to the side of the double doors here, we can pick up a lacerite, another antidote, a healing potion and a potion of sleep, once again together with several bundles of mugwort. The apothecary's ledger on the counter then speaks of a cellar for specially requested plants, triggering a little side quest.
Says there's a cellar here somewhere.
I don't see one.
Picking up the book and the ingredients next to it, we're pretty much done already. I was very thorough though and collected almost every single item not nailed down in here, so after sending all of it off to our camp inventory, we can now use the wooden hatch behind the counter to enter the apothecary's cellar. And we find, unsurprisingly, the remnants of an alchemy lab. Let's bring out the torch for a better view. Lots of barrels and bottle racks down here, also a writing area, generally nothing that looks out of the ordinary at a first glance. Nonetheless, this place is a treasure trove of potions and ingredients. 2 healing potions in the chest here, while the barrels near the ladder all have alchemical ingredients inside of them, including some that we have not yet discovered. There's also another healing potion on the shelf here, and more ingredients below. The area with the writing desk, meanwhile, has nothing of interest apart from some clothing items and an inkpot and quill on the desk. A second set can be found inside of it. As we round the corner then, Shadowheart spots a hidden lever.
That's curious.
Pulling it moves the bookshelf on the wall, revealing a hidden passage. Before we go through though, we can acquire another set of ink and quill from the desk here, before we then send Sylvia solo over to the opposite side of the room. I've had some issues with accidentally triggering conversations in this section, since the loot is pretty tightly spread. The first book we find is then the recipe for a healing potion, let's pocket that, as well as the red flask next to it, which is not a healing potion, but a suspicious poison. Right above it, a healer's log. Entry number 2 here is of note, telling us that the healer used balsam ointment to clean a wound. Let's keep that in mind. Also on the table is an elixir of poison resistance, then in a chest next to it, 2 more healing potions, an antidote and a vaulting potion, and an assortment of alchemy ingredients to the left of that. The shelves around the big table in the middle of the room, as well as that table itself, do not contain any noteworthy loot. In the room's southwestern corner, meanwhile, a final healing potion can be found. At this point, we are then ready to go through the hidden passage, so let's group back up with our party and do so. There's a bone-capped mushroom right at the start of a rocky tunnel, a second one a bit further down, and a few moments later we find ourselves in a natural cavern. 2 bullywug trumpets stand on opposite ends of it, several mouldering caskets in between them, not something we should ignore entirely.
That might be worth a look.
But for the moment, a buried chest demands our attention, inside several useful spell scrolls. There's also a book on the table over here about some of the gods in this world, but I suppose we should prepare for what comes next. I don't think it's too much of a surprise when I tell you that these caskets are not empty. So let's put Sylvia back on dual scimitars, and let us also give one of the 5 scrolls of protection from evil and good to Gale. As a wizard, he can permanently learn spells from scrolls for a small cost, 50 gold per spell level, so not too expensive for a level 1 spell. With the spell in his spellbook, we now only need to prepare it. Sleep will move aside for the time being, and afterwards we can cast the spell on Shadowheart. She is now protected against all sorts of nasty creatures, including undead, who will have disadvantage on attack rolls against her. Following that, we move the party, except for Shadowheart, up onto the east side high ground here, overlooking the cave from a nice vantage point. Shadowheart joins them on the ground and casts Bless on Sylvia, Astarion and herself. No need for turn-based mode here, I think. Combat will start in a second anyway, as Gale targets the mouldering casket with a firebolt cantrip. And there we go. Emerging from the casket is a robust guardian, an undead with 28 hit points, an AC of 14, and dealing a bit more damage because of the dueling feature, not to mention that its crit range is also slightly expanded. Still, it is a melee-only enemy, and one with a particular mechanic at that. We'll see that soon enough. For now, Sylvia can shoot her offhand crossbow, not at the guardian though, but at the stalactite hanging right over the second casket here. The stalactite smashes the casket and its occupant, who fails the save and suffers 19 points of damage. It is not a robust but an agile guardian, an archer, and a fairly competent one at that. While the robust guardians are fairly predictable in this fight, their agile companions have the benefit of being able to move quite far, and they can attack from range, so these guys we want to take out before they get to act. However, we always want to leave one guardian standing until all caskets have been emptied. If we kill them all before that happens, the remaining caskets will not spawn their inhabitants and we will miss out on precious XP. Sadly, Sylvia's main hand attack misses the 85%er here, but a prone enemy is a feast for Astarion, who gets an offhand sneak attack here without needing to hide. So, 10 experience points for the kill, not a lot, but there is a good number of enemies here. Moving on, we now run Astarion back to his old position and take a shot at the Robust Guardian. While we don't want to kill it just yet, applying some damage might be useful. With his second bonus action, we dash and then move the entire party out of the Guardian's melee strike range. Against Shadowheart with protection from evil and good and an AC of 18, it would only have a 12% hit chance. As you can see, it decides to dash instead towards another casket, and that's what these Guardians will try to do, smashing unopened caskets to stack their numbers. A nice mechanic that makes what is arguably one of the easier fights in the game somewhat unique. Now, as undead, the Guardians are vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, so we will not strike with Shadowheart here. That could deal the killing blow and end the fight prematurely. Instead, we move on to the high ground for the ranged attack. Then we drop back down, make sure to set opportunity attacks to Ask, so that she does not accidentally kill anyone, and with that, our first turn of combat ends. Now, if we don't kill the Robust Guardian this round, it will open the casket and another enemy will be added to the initiative, likely at the end, but regardless, it will get to act this turn. Therefore, it is better to get ahead of things and open the casket ourselves. A magic missile from Gale will do, and leaves 2 projectiles for the skeleton. Another Agile Guardian emerges, this one at full health, but hopefully not for long. Astarion has an easy time entering stealth up here, and can go for the ranged sneak attack. Only 10 points of damage. I had honestly hoped for a little more. Now Sylvia will need to use both offhand and main hand for this one enemy here. And unfortunately, that is still not enough, as the second shot deals minimum damage and leaves the Guardian standing with 1 hit point, just like the robust one. Now, Shadowheart will get to act before the Agile one, but this is not a great start, especially since the Robust Guardian here now opens another casket and adds a third enemy to the initiative, who will also get to act before the end of the turn. This leaves us with only one option really, and that would be turn undead, one of the main reasons why Shadowheart is still on the ground here. The Guardians have below average wisdom scores, but let's see how this goes. Alright, lovely, the 2 archers are turned, meaning they cannot take actions apart from dash, and this lasts for 3 turns, so we can bring some order back to this fight, even if the Robust Guardian did save against the effect. Its Agile companions are also not stupid and move right next to the caskets they will inevitably smash as soon as the effect wears off, so let's get their numbers under control. Once again, we call upon Gale, 1 magic missile for each of the 1 hit point enemies, and a third one for the casket in the back here. 20 XP and another Robust Guardian joins the fight. That we can live with. Let's take 2 crossbow shots with Sylvia next. Even if she has disadvantage, a 72% hit chance is not too shabby. 1 hit, 1 miss, that's fine. She can now move aside and give the spot to Astarion, whose crossbow has a slightly longer range and thus allows him to sneak attack from here. With 17 damage, he reduces the skeleton to only 2 hit points and can now go back into hiding, while Shadowheart establishes a line of sight for a 70% shot with the hunting shortbow. And there we go. As long as the Agile Guardian here stands, the fight continues, and it is still turned, so we essentially get a free turn here. However, on the next round, the effect will wear off, so let's break open another casket. A firebolt does the trick, and once again we specifically target a casket containing a Robust Guardian. Now with this one, let us try something. Let's shove it with Shadowheart here. The success chance is admittedly not great, and we need to adjust the angle a bit, but it is worth an attempt. And that succeeds, and the enemy plummets to its instant death. This does, by the way, not unlock the Shove Off achievement, because we did not technically deal any fall damage. The chasm essentially just swallowed the skeleton. Problem is, the Agile Guardian can still free another one of its kind on its turn, and therefore we are under threat of taking some damage. Of course, we can't have that, so let's use Sylvia's Cloud of Daggers to damage both it, the casket next to it, as well as the casket's inhabitant. Right, 12 points of damage against the Guardian, who was already standing, and an even better 14 against the other one. Ideally, we now damage both of them just a little bit more. That should ensure the Cloud of Daggers finish them off at the beginning of their turn. We have a few options left for that, starting with Astarion. Still hidden from the last turn, he can now use a bonus action to dash into range for a sneak attack. Lovely. One down, one to go. Let's see if Shadowheart can hit the 70%er here. Alright, that seals it. The Cloud of Daggers will do enough damage to end this, but maybe we can give the kill to Sylvia instead with an offhand attack at disadvantage. And there we go. With the kill, Sylvia goes invisible because of the Deathstalker mantle that Skeleritas fell-handed her last episode, and we have won another fight. This one not too tricky, even on honor mode I would say, but if you try to win without taking damage, a few precautions need to be taken, and well, I think we can agree that it worked out like a charm. Now then, let's get to looting the place. Even though the Guardians did destroy their caskets, the loot that was within has been scattered around them, and there isn't much apart from some gold. The Guardians themselves, meanwhile, carry a few items of interest that can only be recovered by activating and killing them. One more reason why I highly recommend letting all of them emerge. One item of particular note is the Dark Journal over here, revealing the true nature of the Apothecary as a wizard of Thay by the name of Ilyn Toth, and one that seems curiously interested in reanimating someone. There is mention of a female in this book, perhaps a loved one. Let's pocket the book, earn 15 experience points and keep going. There is one casket here that did not contain a Guardian. Instead, we find inside a scroll of Summon Quasit, together with several uniquely named items, including a skull that is called Friend. Strange indeed, but all of this will become a bit clearer if we use the scroll we just found right here and now.
Oh, shit-pilling toe-rag! Never summon shovel, never feed shovel, now call shovel!
You recognize the tiny fiend, a Quasit. Wicked creatures, often used as familiars.
Wait, you're not Illy?
Right, a foul-mouthed Quasit appears and seems to be confused that we are not someone named Illy, likely her nickname for Ilyn Toth, but let's make sure.
My master, tall, skinny, prick with ears. So, you're Shovel's master now. Fine.
In this conversation, by the way, we want to get on Shovel's good side. Fittingly, calling her a disgusting little creature does not harm those efforts whatsoever.
And you, slab of beef with nipples, moo!
Very important, then, that we ask about her name. Shovel is indeed a rather curious one.
Master Illy calls me Shovel. Don't like it? Change it!
Well, before we make a decision, let's ask her what she would like to be called. Maybe that gets us into her good graces.
Don't care.
Alright then, we will keep the name Shovel. The other two options here are even worse, and she won't like them, even though she would accept them.
So, what first, Master? Gutting locals? Raising the dead? Making them walk? Making them scream?
And instead of taking a stance on the matter, let's answer with a question of our own. Is that what she and Ilyn Toth did here?
Yes. Steal bodies, tear them, then Illy puts them back together. Again and again. When he wasn't horny for the book. Oh, book this, book that. He loves the book.
Right, mention of a book can't make the plot hook any more obvious, so let's bite and follow up on it.
Oh, Master should go see. Talk to the mirror, and remember, balsam, good for burns.
So here we are with a Quasit familiar at our side, and with the rude, crude and full of attitude achievement unlocked, number 8 of this playthrough, a bit over 40 still left to go. Now, Shovel is a fiend and not a particularly strong one, only 7 hit points and an AC of 13. She does have several damage resistances though, and a few useful abilities, not only a regular claw melee attack, but also the ability to go invisible, as well as a scare action that she can use once per rest to frighten someone. So, certainly a bit more of a utility character, but there is one more thing to her. Something interesting happens if we now speak to her again using Gale.
Oh? A spell shite! When the fisting starts, use the sparky magic to call Shovel. Let's kill everything.
Identifying Gale as a full spellcaster, Shovel has now given him permission to summon her. Sadly, this ability cannot be unlocked with a bard or any other hybrid spellcasting class. On the plus side, Gale could now technically summon a second Shovel, although for the moment one will be enough. Now moving on, we find more man-made structures in the southeastern corner of the area. Most of the crates and barrels here are empty, there is one containing 2 flasks of water, but the real object of interest is the Ornate Mirror over here. Shovel did mention this earlier, and we now want to interact with it, but not using Sylvia, instead we want to use Gale.
Speak your name. A magic mirror. A primitive contraption, but not without its use.
Now, before we answer, let's do the Arcana check down here to better understand the mirror's magic. The first reason for using Gale is that he obviously has the best chance of succeeding here.
The magic is old and wavering, but you recognize it. The mirror is a thinking lock, hiding some secret. The face is crafted to be pleasing, but the personality is just a reflection of the wizard that created it.
Speak your name.
And once more, we will not answer right away. Instead, let us first examine our appearance.
You do your best to wipe the dirt from your face and look presentable. Adventuring is murder on one's wardrobe, though.
Speak your name.
Right, now having learned that this mirror was most likely created by Ilyn Toth, it stands to reason that speaking his name offers us the best chance of succeeding here.
I know my master's face. You are not Ilyn Toth. If you are his ally, step forward and declare it.
Well, that we can easily do, we don't even need to roll for a deception check. So yes, we are most definitely one of Ilyn Toth's allies.
Only a true ally of Ilyn Toth may pass. What think you of the Zolkir known as Zastan?
You recognize the name, of course. Anyone that knows of the Red Wizards would. Zastam is a powerful lich that rules the land of Thay. He drove many Red Wizards out of their ancestral home.
This here reason number 2 for doing this conversation with Gale, he automatically has this knowledge. All other characters would have to roll a history check. Now, obviously, calling the lich that drove the Red Wizards out of their home the High Regent or a great and powerful leader won't go well. Instead, referring to him as a foul lich is what best reflects Ilyn's opinion.
You are no Zolkir, but are you wise? Tell me, why might one use balsam ointment?
Reason number 3 then for doing this with Gale, he knows these things even without having read the doctor's journal, which curiously also contradicts what Shovel told us earlier about the balsam treating burns. Maybe an honest mistake, maybe an attempt to trick us. Either way, we know better. Options 1 and 4 here are the right answers. Balsam ointment disinfects wounds.
Acceptable. Finally. If you could see anything in me, what would it be?
Now, every character has a unique set of answers for this question, and regardless of who you use to speak to the mirror, you always want to pick an option that appeals to survival or a strive for power. That is what best reflects the character of Ilyn Toth according to his journal. In Gale's case, that would be dialogue option number 2 here.
You seek to survive. You seek power. Be welcome.
And there we are. After giving all the right answers, the mirror opens for us. We earn 15 XP and Astarion earns another inspiration. And we now have access to the final, most secret part of the Apothecary cellar. You can see it here, a giant skeleton hangs from the ceiling. Once again, there are plenty of alchemy ingredients and apparatuses to be found, beginning with the so far undiscovered acorn truffles in 2 barrels right next to the entrance. Some shards and crystals then in a 3rd barrel, while on the large alchemy desk here we can loot some basilisk oil, as well as a scroll of featherfall and the Moonhaven logbook, this one detailing visitors to the village. Ilyn Toth was seemingly very afraid of people from Thay finding him here. Those did not show up though. Instead, the book speaks of curious happenings. First, a raid from black armored soldiers, so definitely not goblins. Then the disappearance of Ilyn's apprentice near the village well. Then a second raid undertaken by those same black armored soldiers. And just 2 days later, smoke on the horizon, maybe stemming from the Nautiloid wreckage. The other book here then mostly concerned with reanimating dead flesh, and that's about all there is of interest here. Let's visit the westernmost chamber next and recover a very important rusted key. Apart from that, there is also a lever on the wall here. Pulling it opens a shortcut back into the starting area. You can clearly see it, we have been here already. This right here, the ladder that leads us back up into the village. The room itself has a chest with several poisons, including a vial of drow poison inside, while more acorn truffles are found in the 2 barrels. The barrel on the other side then has 2 more alchemy ingredients in it, including the new Loith's candle. That's the interesting stuff in here. Let's move to the alcove nearby next. Here, a chest contains several spell scrolls that we definitely want to pocket. A bundle of mugwort, then the other item of interest in this place, so let's investigate the table in the middle of the chamber next. The skeleton no longer contains anything of use, but there are research notes detailing all of Ilyn Toth's failed experiments. His only option left, seemingly true resurrection, a spell beyond his powers. Over on the nearby fireplace then, an antidote can be grabbed, and there is also a book to the right of it, this one conveying some arcane ideas that are perhaps bordering on conspiracy theories. Let's not bother with them, and instead move on to the last little nook in this place. A gilded chest in here contains the rare Braces of Defense. These give their wearer a +2 to their armor class if they are not wearing armor or wielding a shield, so essentially the same as wielding a shield, but freeing up the offhand for something else. Perhaps this could be useful for Will to enable him to dual wield. The rest of the room mostly contains inkpots and quills. Another book on death and resurrection lies on the table here, and with that we have only 1 spot left to investigate. Now, this trap on the floor here we don't actually need to disarm. Walking over it only lights up the 2 braces on the side here, nothing too dangerous. The rusted iron gate, meanwhile, we can open with the key we just found, saving a set of thieves' tools, and then we can walk into the chamber behind. In here, a very special book lies ominously on a pressure plate, clearly another trap, and before we pick up the Necromancy of Thay, let us take note of the silk spider cocoons in the room. However, all of them are empty, and therefore not worth opening, so let's see what's so special about this book then.
The book is locked tight with no visible keyhole, only an oval recess in the cover's mouth. You try to examine the book, but the longer you stare, the more those piercing amethyst eyes draw you in.
Curious. Why don't you take a closer look? I'll observe from back here.
That looks terribly heavy. Why don't you let me carry it for you?
Okay, different reactions from our party about a book that we cannot open at this time. Of course, we are going to take it with us, though. It might contain some powerful magic. Now, upon removing the book, the trap is automatically triggered, but the game is kind enough to enter turn-based mode for us before we take damage, so let's move out of the way here. Just a few steps away from the gate will suffice. The trap then lets loose the gargoyles, shooting fire across the room, destroying all those silk spider cocoons, but we are out of the danger zone, and actually also out of the cellar in just a second. There is nothing more to find down here, and we can return to the Blighted Village. Stepping back out of the Apothecary and into the disheveled street, I think we can call it an episode. We are actually just a few XP short of reaching level 4, so we will most likely level up next time. While we're in the Goblin Village, episodes could also occasionally be a little shorter to keep everything nice and condensed, but who knows, there is once again plenty to discover. For today, let's make the cuts. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.